I just see your face, Shamantika. Makes me press that button.
Yes, I'm online now.
Okay, let's get started. Om. I hope I remember the prayers. It feels like so many days since we've been doing this. You think, by repeating every day, you think that you know it, right? Because you're chanting in a group and everybody's singing together. So you don't really notice the little bits that you miss. So then when you go away for a few days and then you try to recite it on your own, then you see that you don't really know it. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parang Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Sahanao Avatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinao Adhitamastu Ma Vidushavahai Om Shanti 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 Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Vamshi Vibhushita Karat Navanira Dabhat Pitambarat Arunabimba Falat Roshtat Purnindu Sundara Mukhat Aravinda Netrat Krishnat Param Kimapi Tattvamaham na jane Ramo Rajamani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishachara Chamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha Ramat Nasti Parayanam Paratanam Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mama Uddhara Krishno Rakshatu No Jagattraya Guru Krishnang Namadvang Sada Krishnena Kila Sadgatir Vitarita Krishnaya Tasmai Namaha Krishna Deva Samustitang Jagadidam Krishnasya Dasavayam Krishne Tishtati Vishwame Tadakilam He Krishna Rakshasvamam. So we're doing this verse last week. We'll just do the verse today. We'll do a couple of verbs as well, but this is a continuation from the previous week. Kim Geyam Brajakeli Karma Kimiha Sreyak Satang Sangatihi Kim Smartavyam Aghari Nama Kimanu Gyeyam Murare Padam Kvasteyam Braja Eva Kim Sravanayor Anandi Vrindavana Kridaika Kim Upasya Matra Mahasi Shri Krishna Radha Vide Kim geyam vraja keli karma kimiha Shreyaksatam sangatihi Kim smartavyamaghari nama kimanu Dhyeyam murare padam Kwaste amraja eva kim sravanayor Anandi vrindavana Kridaika kimupasya mahasi Shri Krishna Radha Vide. One more time. Kim geyam vraja keli karma kimiha Shreyaksatam sangatihi Kim smartavyamaghari nama kimanu Dhyeyam murare padam Kwaste amraja eva kim sravanayor Anandi vrindavana Kridaika kimupasya mahasi Shri Krishna Radha Vide. Oh, I really wanted to do Bibhite. Oh well, let's we'll do these ones again. All right, lung, lut, juhoti, juhutaha, juhvati, juhoti, juhutaha, juhvati, juhoshi, juhutaha, juhuta, juhoshi, juhutaha, juhuta, juhomi, juhuvaha, juhumaha, juhuvaha, juhumaha, juhot, lot, juhotu, juhutam, juhvatu, juhotu, juhutam, juhvatu, juhuti, juhutam, juhuta, juhuti, juhutam, juhuta, juhuvani, juhuvava, juhuvama, juhuvani, juhuvava, juhuvama, lung, ajuhot, ajuhutam, ajuhuhu, ajuhot, ajuhutam, ajuhuhu, ajuhoho, ajuhutam, ajuhuta, ajuhoho, ajuhutam, ajuhuta, ajuhavam, ajuhuva, ajuhuma, ajuhuvam, ajuhuva, ajuhuma, and then ling. Juhuyat, juhuyatam, juhuyuhu, juhuyat, juhuyatam, juhuyuhu, juhuyaha, juhuyatam, juhuyata, juhuyaha, juhuyatam, juhuyata, juhuyam, juhuyava, juhuyama, juhuyam, juhuyava, juhuyama. And now we have Atmanepada. Da dhatu, Atmanepada, lat, present. Datte, dadate, dadate, datte, dadate, dadate, datte, dadate, dadate, datte, dadate, dadate. Yeah, datse, dadate, dadadhve, datse, dadate, dadadhve, dade, dadmahe, 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 lot. Dattam, dadatam, dadatam, dattam, dadatam, dadatam, datswa, dadatam, dadadhvam, datswa, dadatam, dadadhvam, dadai, dadavahai, dadamahai, dadai, dadavahai, dadamahai. Lung, adatta, adadatam, adadata, adatta, adadatam, adadata, adattaha, adadatam, adadad, adadhvam, adattaha, adadatam, adadhvam, adadi, adadvahi, adadvahi, adadai, adadvahi, adadvahi, and then ling. Dadita, dadiyatam, dadiran, dadita, dadiyatam, dadiran, daditaha, dadiyatam, dadidhvam, dadiya, dadiyatam, dadidhvam, Tadiya, Tadivahi, Tadimahi. So the important thing I'm hoping is that you can recognize when you see, even though there's different forms and the things, usually the endings are remaining pretty standard. So when you see like Dadi, then you think immediately, oh, this is Atmanepada, Vidiling, like that. Or if you see Ya, that big Ya, that Juhuyat, like that you recognize, oh, this is Vidiling. And so then you know, and you know where to, and you know what's happened to the dhatu. So you can go back here and you can recognize the dhatu. So you recognize dhatu and vidiling. Those two things go together. You have the dhatu, then the vidiling. You have the prakriti and the pratyaya. So the dhatu is called the prakriti, but the prakriti doesn't tell you anything. You need the pratyaya. It's the pratyaya that's giving you all the information. So the pratyaya means pratyaya. Well, sometimes they call it suffix, but it's not really a suffix. It means what you do to the root, right? So like with juhuyat, you've done a number of things. The root was hu, but because it's a third conjugation class, therefore some things happened to it. There was a reduplication, chu, hu. And now you have strong stems and weak stems. So all these things are the pratyaya. Then the third person singular, lung, vidiling, whatever it is, all these are your pratyayas. So all the information about what's happening, that you have the root, it's like having, the root is like a piece of clay or the paint, you know, and then what you do with the paint, you know, or what you do with the clay, you make it into something. You have to say third person, singular, present tense, you know, it's in the passive or whatever. Okay, let's go on to the story, my friends. Change your screen now. Where is it? Here we go. All right, we started this one last week, so I'm going to start at, let's here, reduce this here. All right, so let's have, so who's here? Is there anybody else besides Samantika here? Okay, Vrindavan is there online too. Okay. All right, so there's 4 of us today. Let's read. I'll read the first sentence because we read this last time. So actually, I want to spend a little more time. If we have time at the end of the class, we're going to ask questions in Sanskrit, and you're going to answer the questions in Sanskrit. Okay? So let's say we'll read each sentence. We'll read each sentence 3 times. Okay? So one of the students will read it the first time, then I will read it, and then we will discuss the sentence, and then we will read it again. All right? Starting with Radha Govindaji. Kasmin
chit bane Chandra Ravaha. You're going to read again?
We did this, we're going to do it again. We'll just do it quickly though, because we did it.
This is Chanda Ravaha.
Chanda Ravaha.
Chanda Ravaha Nama Shrigalaha Basati Sma.
Okay, so means you understood the whole thing?
In some forest, Chanda Ravaha, I don't know what it is.
Well, when you see Nama, it's telling you it's the name of the person, so you don't have to translate. His name was Chanda Ravaha. The word Chanda Ravaha means, Rava means, Chanda means a terrible, and Rava means a call, or you know, so like the jackal is making these terrible sounds, so he called Chanda Ravaha.
Okay, so the Chanda Ravaha, Srigalaha, name Chanda Ravaha is in the forest, living in the forest.
That's right. Okay. Dinabandhu.
Basati.
Yeah. So basati is bas dhatu, third person singular. Sa basati. So kutra basati sashrigalaha.
Kanchi forest.
Kasmin chitvane. Okay. Tasya nama hakim. Dinabandhu.
Tasya nama Chanda Ravaha.
Chanda Ravaha iti. That's right. Okay, so Ekada, read the next sentence.
Okay, Ekda Saha Aharam
अन्विष्यन् एकदा सः आहारम् अन्विष्यन् अगरम् आगतवान् एकदा once सः he आहारम् अन्विष्यन्.
Okay, here, let me explain this again. I think I explained it last time. So you see, repeating is not a bad thing. We saw the story. We all know the story now in the first paragraph, but do we know the language of the first paragraph? So aharam is food, right?
Yeah.
And anvishyan, now this is what we call a present participle. So this is only coming up in the 8th lesson, but it's a very, very, very important part of Sanskrit. And it's sort of like, I think the finishing touch for me was to explain the present participle and how it's used in the locative absolute construction. I think that when you get this piece of the puzzle with Sanskrit, then it's like the whole the jigsaw is finished, you know. Or maybe there's 1 or 2 pieces left, but you know how when you get to the end of a jigsaw puzzle, then you have 5 or 6 pieces left, and you see the shape is exactly the same. You did it in 2 seconds, right? The last little bit. But when you got the whole picture, when you get the shatri, the present participle, then you do. So we've seen the present participle actually in the declensions, because we had bhavan, right? So bhavan, bhavanto, bhavantaha, bhavantam, bhavanto, bhavataha, bhavata, bhavat. All this was bhavan. This is all the present participle, bhavan. So here we have anvishyan. So anvishyan is what? This is looking for someone. So this is also important. Ish dhatu means to look, to want something, right? So when you want something, you look for it. So that's what anvishyan means, looking for it. So he was searching for food. So this is a present participle. It's a nominative singular there. Anvishyan, like bhavan, and like purvan. So sa aharam anvishyan. So searching for food. Nagaram agatavan. Please continue. That's right. He came to the city. So kutra agatavan. Nagaram. Kimartham agatavan. Now you see. Now this is where this is okay. Now I tell you, this is where a little bit of flexibility comes in, because you can't say you can't just take the words from the story, but you say ahara aharartham. Ahar artham, remember artham? Ahar artham agatavan. Like that. Okay, next one. Okay, Shamantika, you do the next sentence, please.
Tam drishtva aneke shunakaha bhashantaha samipam agatavantaha. Seeing him.
Watch this one carefully now. Sorry, go ahead. Watch this sentence carefully, because it's very clever. Whoever wrote this, you know, is thinking of the students and thinking of how the student is learning. So now he has agatavan singular and anvishyan singular. And now here in the next sentence, he has bashantaha, which is this present participle plural, and agatavantaha, which is the perfect participle plural. Right? So we see that everything in this sentence is in the plural. Go, please.
So seeing him, several dogs
This is bashantaha means barking.
Okay. So several dogs came near him barking.
That's right. They came near to him, they were barking at him. So bashantaha, sometimes you see bakhantaha with a ka. That sha and ka sometimes get changed around. So you can see this is also very similar to bhash, which means to speak. So somewhere along the line, you know, someone is saying that the dogs are making like this noise, bashantaha, and the human beings are making a noise like bhashate. Right? All right. Samipam means nearby. So usually you put samipam is usually with the shashti vibhakti, right? So the shashti vibhakti. So you come tasya samipam or tasya samipe. You can use septimi also. Tasya samipe agatavantaha. So here samipam, you say tasya samipe, but tasya samipam agatavantaha. They came near to him. All right, Vrindavan, next one. Are you there?
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
So go read.
Okay. Chana Daravaha Vitya Davitum Udyukta.
Yeah.
Oof.
You're gonna have to put this word into the manual because we have here, you see Chandarabaha, Bhitya, Dhavitum, Udyuktaha. So what's Dhavitum?
Davitum.
Anyway,
Huh.
I leave it to you. You first, you explain the sentence to me and then I will talk about that.
No, I'm kind of lost in this one.
Okay.
Chandara.
All right. So what's your subject?
My subject is Chandravaha. I don't know.
Okay. So now there's another word in the nominative case. What is it?
Udyukta.
Now, what is that? Udyukta? Is it, what kind of word is it?
I don't know.
What kind of part? It's a participle, right? It's a past participle. So if it's a
Okay.
past participle, we have to know what the root is. What's the root? Huge, right?
Udyuk.
So huge. So
Huge.
huge means to join things together usually, right? But huge is
Okay.
huge is a big verb. It's one of the, like, I don't know, I think there may be 100 verbs in Sanskrit that are like really, really basic. So huge is one of the really basic verbs of Sanskrit. So huge means to join, but then there's all these other words, these prepositions or these upasargas that go in front of it. So udyuktaha. So udyoga. So udyoga, to make things to come up. Things come. So udyoga, if you think of udyoga nowadays, called industry is called udyoga, industry. Right. So in the modern language of Hindi, like to talk about udyoga, and udyoga pati, that's a person who is an industrialist. Right. So the udyoga, so udyukta means someone who makes it, who's making an who's preparing something. So it means here, it means, because that's udyoga, that's the causative. But udyuktaha means to get ready or engage, to engage in something. So here it's acting like a verb. It's acting like a verb with chandaravaha. That's why it's in the same vibhakti, right? So we have to look at it like chandaravaha, udyuktaha. So chandaravaha, let's just translate it as began to, okay? Udyuktaha, we'll just, I told you all these things, complicated things. But here it just means he began to, because it's going with dhavitum. Dhavitum, so dhavitum is what kind of word, Vrindavan? What's the part of speech, let's say, of dhavitum?
The part of speech.
Well, okay, so you know, we talked about parsing before. So we parse, you have to learn how to parse the word dhavitum. So you have to identify this word dhavitum. What is it? It's a infinitive, right? The tumun, it has that tum ending. So it's an infinitive. So dhavitum udyukta, he began to run. He began, right? He began to run. So I have to put udyukta into the vocabulary of our manual, because we have other words. We had arabate. We usually say arabate, which arabate means to begin. But udyukta is used a lot. So here, and it's obviously being used in this, you know, what they consider easy Sanskrit. All right. So bhitya means, what's bhitya? Explain the word bhitya to me.
With fear,
Huh?
be fear.
V is fear, yes. Now V, so it's got so and so that's all right. So you got the prakriti. Now what's the pratyaya? So the word is bhitya. So it's bhiti, it's bhiti, and then tritiya vibhakti, bhitya. So bhitya here means the reason or how he's running away. He began to run out of fear, or he began to, it could even be bhitya, it might even be panchami vibhakti. Out of fear, he began to run. Because bhitya could be bhitya or it could be bhityaha, and the visarga dropped on account, but here they don't use that. Sorry, it can't be that, because in these books they don't put sandhi. All right. All right, next one. So we're back to the beginning. So I do the next one. Shunakaha api tasya anusaranam kritavantaha. So the dogs, shunakaha, api, also, tasya, his, shigalasya, anusaranam, followed, right? Anuvartanam, kritavantaha, they did following. Notice this here. This is something that they use very often in this new Sanskrit, in modern Sanskrit. Use the verbal noun with kri dhatu. Anusaranam kritavanta or anusritavantaha. Anusritavantaha. Anusrita would be the past participle, and then you add the endings of the perfect participle. Anusritavantaha. Right? All right, back to you.
Chandaravaha pranavayat davan marge drishtam rayakagriham pravishtavan. So Chandaravaha pranavayat. What means is the
Okay, so what is it?
liar?
No, prana is what? Prana means your life. Yeah, and bhaya.
Okay, with fear for his life.
That's right. Prana bhayat. So out of fear for his life is Panchami Vibhakti. And here again we have dhavan. So now that's a present participle. We had dhavitum just a minute ago. Bhitya dhavitum udyuktaha.
Okay, he run. Marg is the way.
Marge, on the way.
Run on the way. Drishtam Rajaka Griham, the house of the king.
Oh, no. Rajaka is not a king. A Rajaka, I'm not sure where the word comes from. I never had a word to explain. It's a dhobi, a clothes washer. A clothes washer, or here in this particular case, it's a person who dyes cloth. Or what it can be said, you know what it is that, you know, you've seen for white cloth here in India, they use something called neela. Usually, you know, like that's why so many people wear a cloth that looks kind of blue, right? It's because they've been, to make it clean. They think it makes it white, make it more white. So they put the neela in it, right? So it doesn't really make it white. It makes it more. So, but in the laundry, the clothes washer, he would have a big vat. So that's what bhanda. He'd have a big vat of this blue stuff, and he would wash the white clothes in there to make them so more whiter. They'd really be blue. So now that's what that's what he's going to fall into.
Okay, so Pravishtavan enter.
That's right.
So
okay.
Chandaravaha, with fear for his life, run on the way to the house of the.
Okay, so look at it a little bit differently. All right, so now you have to remember that in Sanskrit, often what we would, the words are in a different order. Like with Babaji, I often have to change when I'm editing. So he's always using the house of Govinda. I make it Govinda's house, right? So because in English we would say Govinda's house. Instead, we all the time saying house of Govinda, house of Govinda. In English, that sounds very heavy. And of course, in Spanish, you can't do that, right? In Spanish, you have to say the house of Govinda, right? So yeah. Okay. So the point is that word order sometimes plays a different role in different languages. So now here, Chandaravaha pranabhayata dhavan. All right, so when you come to, listen carefully, everybody here, because this is an important point in just when you're reading Sanskrit. So whenever there's a participle, like the present participle, what you're doing is you're coming to the end of a thought. Usually, now in the verses, you might get something more complicated, but here in the regular spoken Sanskrit, in the regular, easy Sanskrit, in the general Sanskrit, basic Sanskrit, this is the proper way. That when you come prana bhayat, and I'm not just saying basic Sanskrit, in all prose, because I do this all the time when I'm editing the tikas. So if I'm editing a tika, you often see, especially we were doing Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it was very good there, editing the tika, because Sanatana Goswami's commentary is much more literary. It's more complete. It tells a bigger story. He doesn't just stick to the point and make a small comment. he expands and makes a interesting, he tells stories and things like this in his commentary. So anyway, so that means that his Sanskrit is a bit more complicated, and that means he uses a lot of participles. This is why we're learning participles that really in my course at the end, because it's just it is the way that it's one of the ways that the language is constructed. So here, Chandaravaha Pranabhayat Dhavan. So that's where you end it. So Chandaravaha, out of fear for his life, running, right? Then what happens? So the next verb is Pravishtavan. So that's the next one. So he entered, and now you got to go backwards, right? He entered the house of Dhobi, the house of a washerman, Drishtam, seen, Marge, on the path. Right? So what I'm saying here, so when you came to Dhavan, then you had to stop and start thinking again, this is something new now. Right? So first of all, this Dhavan is nominative case, it's going with the subject. And Drishtam Rajaka Griham, that's accusative, and it's going with Pravishtavan. Drishtam Yuvabhyam, Samagatam, Avagatam, Kim? Chandaravaha Dhavati. Kasmat Dhavati.
Why does he?
I don't want a translation, I want an answer. Anuvadaha Nadiyatam Uttaram Dehi. You look at
The
him.
dogs.
Okay.
Shunakam.
No,
Anus.
Shunakaha.
Shunakaha.
Yeah, look.
Anusara.
Anusaranam.
Anusaranam.
Kurvanti. Yeah, Kurvanti. All right. Pranabhayata Dhavan. All right. We gotta go a little bit quicker because I like this. So maybe we'll expand a little bit more. Anyway, let's go on here. So Asmakam Shrigalaha Idanim Rajaka Grihe Pravishtavan. So Tatra Kim Kuroti Dinabandho Pata.
Tatra Kim?
What?
What is the answer?
Tatra?
Tatra Kim Karoti Saha Davataha. No.
Oh, Sadavati. Okay.
Sadavati.
No, but he's gone. Anyway, read from the next sentence. Tatra.
Okay. Tatra Nila Rasen.
Rasena.
Tatra Nila Rasena Paripurnam Ekam Mahavandam Asit. Let me read again. Please. Tatra Nila Rasena Paripurnam Ekam Mahavandam Asati.
Asit.
Asit.
So Tatra Asit. There was.
Yeah. There was.
Well, Tatra means really means Rajaka Grihe. Tatra.
So there was Nila Rasen.
Okay,
Rasena.
Nila Rasena. So I just explained what the Nila Rasena is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And Paripurnam.
Aha.
I know what.
Okay,
Yes.
Tatra Pashyatu Bhavan. Samadhina Srunuta. Okay, Nila Rasena. Nila Rasena Titiya Vibhaktihi. So Nila Rasa Dvarena. By Nila Rasa. Kim Paripurnam. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnamidam Bhandam Mahabhandam. So Nila Rasena Paripurnam Ekama Mahabhandam Asit. Arthaha.
I know what is Mahavandam.
Mahabhandam. It's the big vat. We're calling it a vat. VAT. Not the VAT tax, but the vat.
There was a big bath with the blue color.
Yeah, filled with the blue.
Filled with blue.
Filled with the Nila. It's called indigo. Okay, filled with indigo. We'll say indigo, okay? All right, next one. Who's next? Shamantika, go.
Chandaravaha tasmin bhande patitavan.
Yes.
Chandaravaha, where is it? Okay, so Chandaravaha fell into this pot.
That's right. Everybody gets this one. Sarve samagachanti, sarve avakashanti. Spashtameva tatvakyam. Na? Spashtam. Clear. Sfutameva. So Chandaravaha tasmin bhande patitavan. He fell into that pot, into that vat. Okay, Vrindavan Chandra.
Yada saha bandataha vahi agataha tada tasya shariram
Samagram.
samagram nila varna mayam asit.
Very good. So here again, just let me keep talking because it's my privilege here as the teacher. So I was just saying that agataha, okay, that's your participle. So now that is where you have a comma. Even though there's no comma written there, you think comma. Okay, because this is a participle. So as I was just saying, I mean, the trouble with these participles, the past participles, sometimes they act as an adjective and they go forward. But here, what do you have? So yada and tada, right? So this sentence is also being split up by yada, tada. So Sanskrit likes to keep your yadas and your tadas and your yats and your tuts separate. So when you have yat, everything that goes with yat stays with yat. And everything that's with tut stays with tut, and you don't want to get those two mixed up. Okay, go. Yada saha, please continue.
So, okay. I understand that, Tada.
Okay.
Means that if then he would not have turned.
No, there's no would not in there. There's no not anywhere.
So then let's go from.
Okay, just start. We first come with the yada part, then we'll do the tada.
If he.
No, if.
Okay. Okay. When he. What means what?
Bahi. Bahiranga. What's the Bahiranga section? No wonder you're having trouble. You don't know the difference between Bahiranga and Antaranga Shakti. All right, so here's Bahi means outside.
When he got out from the pot.
That's right. When he came out from the vat, then
Tasya Sarir, his whole body.
Tisya Sharirang, don't forget the young part.
Tasya Sariram, his body. Samagram, Nila.
Samagram is complete.
Okay.
Yeah, Samagram, agra means the front, and it means right up to the front. So it means blue right up to his nose.
Yes.
Right?
That's it. He was completely, his whole body was blue.
That's right. So Nila Varna Mayam. So that Mayam, often you see this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's one place where he goes into the whole Mayat suffix. You often see in the commentary, what does it mean? There's several meanings of Mayat. Babaji knows them all. I don't know the verse. There's a sutra in the Harinamamrita which tells you all the different meanings of Maya. But generally speaking, Maya means to pervade. It's something that's pervaded or covered by, you become completely that thing. So it goes with Atmaka. You often see Atmaka also. So Nilavarnatmaka Masi, slightly different usage. Anyway, good. Next one. Who's next?
Eshaha eva saha shrigalaha iti ayanantaha shunakaha anjatra putrapi gatavantaha. So Esha eva saha shrigalaha. This is the shrigalaha.
This is that.
Yeah. Iti, in this way, ayanantaha.
Okay, what's your dhatu here?
Yana.
Yeah, janati, to know. So ajananta, not knowing. It's the present participle. Again, a present participle in the plural nominative case. All right. So this is the first part of the sentence. Not knowing that this is the same jackal. Right.
You say in Sanskrit suddenly, like sometimes in Hindi you say ajanak, suddenly.
Oh, that's completely. You're going achana.
Achanak.
It's not ajanak. It's achana. So that tells me something about you.
Ajananta Shunakaha.
You're more into hearing than into and listening. And then you're more auditive than you are visual.
Then Ayanantaha Shunakaha Anjatra Kutrapi, another place,
Yeah, and somewhere else.
somewhere else. Go.
Gatavanta, they went somewhere else. So not knowing that it was the same Shrigala. I don't know why, maybe a blue Shrigala, they don't eat those. They didn't know. And you think they would bark even more if they saw a blue a jackal, they're already barking. If they see a blue jackal, it wouldn't just, maybe they were afraid and they ran away. But anyway. Okay, who's next? Dinabandhu. Tadanantaram, Dinabandhu.
Chandaravaha itistatah itastatah atan katayaschit
Oh, no, Kathayanchit, Kathanchit.
katanchit vanam agatavan. Chandaravaha itastah
Itastataha. So we did this itastataha. I hope you know. And actually, there was another one also. We had the tas, what I call the tas suffix, right? So the tas suffix.
itastatah atan kataschit vanam agatavan. Chandaravaha vanam agatavan. He went to the forest.
Good, excellent.
Atan, itastaha. I forgot what is the tas suffix.
Okay, so look, so itastata, here and there.
Here,
When we say here and there, back and forth, like that, back and forth, here and there. He's going this way, going that way. So itastata artan. So artan means wandering. So you have artan. Right, that's said also about Krishna. Atati yadbhavan achnikananam, artanam.
Yeah.
And then you also have pariartanam. So pariartanam. You have that word. So artan means moving about or wandering. So wandering this way and that. He eventually somehow got to the forest. Okay? Samantika.
So I'm trying to find where are we?
Right here. Beginning next
Tatra.
paragraph. Tatra.
Okay. Tatra anye mrigaha etam nila varna yutam shrigalam drishtva bhitaha palayanam kurvanti sma.
There you go. Excellent.
So there are the animals.
Anye mrigaha.
Are the animals fled away out of fear, seeing blue colored jackal.
That's right. So again, you would see the same like before with drishtwa. So drishtwa is a gerund. So treat the gerund the same way you would a present participle or something else like that, right? So it's the end of the section. So the other animals having seen or seeing the jackal, and then yutam, that means was one of the words that meant with. Remember back when we were doing with in Tritiya Vibhakti, then we were talking about certain like yuktam and sahitam and things that you could use at the end of a compound to mean with. So nila varna yutam means the jackal with blue color. Right? So it's kind of the same as Nilavarna Mayam, but it's not quite. Nilavarna Yutam. Yutam means something that's added on or with. He's with the blue color. Anyway, then so Bhitaha, that's another adjective from Mrigaha. And then Palayanam Kurvanti Sma, again you have the verbal noun, Palayanam and Kurvanti. So they were doing running away. They were doing the fleeing. So they could have said Palayanti. They could have also said Palayanti instead of saying Palayanam Kurvanti. So it seems longer to say Palayanam Kurvanti instead of Palayanti. But anyway, I think they do it. This is because to make it, because this is more similar to, let's say, the way a person would speak in Hindi. Because if I was speaking Hindi, then I would say Palayan karta hai, right? Palayan karta hai. I wouldn't say palayata hai or palayata rahta hai or something like that. This is a construction that's used in Hindi. All right, next one. So are we okay with that sentence? Everybody gets everything here? Anyem rigaha. Anyem rigaha. Vanestitaha. Anyem rigaha. Gajaha santi. Shashakaha api santi. Anyat kim kimasti. Tatra bhavaha pashavaha santi nava. Te sarve. Nilavarna mayam shrigalam drishtva bhitaha palayanam kurvanti sma. Vrindavan Chandra.
Tada Chandravaha Tan Uktavan. Then the Chandravaha said, Wo Pranina Bhiti Mastu.
Okay, the
Don't
Pasha.
be afraid.
Yes, don't be afraid. So now this is also Ma Astu. That's the so yeah, and Bhitihi. May fear not be. So may you not have any fear, right? So be fearless, right? So Ma
Pranina means
Bhiti.
creatures? Pranina.
Praninaha, yes. So pranin and then praninaha is plural. Right? So praninaha is sambodhanam. Hey praninaha. Hey, all living beings. Don't be, there's a way, because there are many ways to say don't be afraid, but let there be no fear. That's really what the translation would be. Go ahead.
Bhavatam sarvesham rakshanartham eva chaturmukha brahmam preshitavan asti. Then for protect to all living entities, Chaturmukha Brahma, Preshitavan means
Send. To send.
So for protect to all living entities, Chaturmukha Brahma sent me.
That's right. Okay. Bhavatam sarvesham shashti bahuvachanam. So of all the living beings, rakshanartham. So there you see, typical. You have the verbal noun, rakshanam, plus artham. So I mean for the sake of protecting, means of all the living beings. So for protecting all living beings, eva, only, Chaturmukha Brahma, the four-faced Brahma, has sent me. Okay, Dinabandhu?
Ataha itaha param aham eva bhavatam raja. Ataha itihi, like
No, ataha. So,
itaha.
okay, good. So well, there's a good one. Smart guy who's writing this stuff for you students. So
Ataha.
what's it? Ataha and itaha both mean from this.
Okay.
Right? So they both really mean from this. So ataha, but ataha is mean therefore. Therefore, and itaha from now, itaha is going with param. So after, and here itaha from now, from this time, here is using it temporarily. So from therefore, from this time, ahameva bhavatam raja.
I will be your king.
I am your king. And Samantika.
Param.
And the
Yeah, you
param
got it.
here, what is
Sorry.
here param?
Say again.
Param, what is param here?
Okay, all right, so good question. So itah param, it's going with param. So now param, we know param means other, right? So here in this, here in this particular case, it means after, or from now. It's really another way of just saying from now on. This is what it means. This is what it means. So it's really giving param means, well, what is it saying? Well, it's itak param. It's a common expression going together. Itak param. What can I say? After this, from now on. Therefore, from now on, I am your king. Or I alone am your king. Ahameva bhavatam raja. So itak param, you also see atak param, same meaning. Atak param, tatak param, after that. So param is just taking on the meaning of after. So, but if you see, but itak param is generally speaking used more familiarly and commonly as an expression, meaning from now on, because it's going now, right? Itaha means from this point. Okay?
Yes. So, Mama agya bhavadbihi palaniya iti. I'm confused.
Tabab mohasya karanam kim.
Mama agya.
So mama agya, so this is the subject. Now here again we have a participle. This is the potential participle, palaniya. So now you have to watch out that you don't get this palaniya. So palaniya is, you all recognize potential participle, right? Yeah, so it to be kept, right? So loka pala, go pala, all these words with pala. Pala means someone who's taking care of things, right? So palaniya must keep. So the word palaniya has to keep, like to take care of something. So you keep, and agya goes with palaniya. So agya, orders are kept. Just like in English, we keep an order, follow my order, keep my order. Here, agya palaniya, you must follow my order. Mama agya palaniya, my order to be followed. Bhavadbihi, tritiya vibhakti of the polite pronoun. Bhavan, bhavanto, bhavantaha, bhavantam, bhavanto, bhavataha, bhavata, bhavadbihi, bhavadbhyam, bhavadbihi. So by you. So my order must be followed by you. You must follow my orders.
Okay, so agya is feminine here, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Not only here, but everywhere. Everywhere they go, orders are feminine. There must be something about that.
Actually, I mixed this root how to say this, like rakshatu pal with fleeing. So to flee.
Sorry, go ahead.
How it is? No. Just is it a short "a" there? How shall I understand?
No. Because I think maybe you're mixing it up with the palayanam over here.
Yes, right.
So palayana was meaning running away. No, palayana is something different. Actually, palayati. I think I'm not sure what the derivation of palayanam is. Palayanam is just, it means running away. But palanam, the word root is, so palaniya is the to be kept. It must be kept. So that does that. All right, let's go on here. We don't have much time. Ta-da!
Simha gayaha vyadara ityadayaha sarve api mrigaha tat angi kritavantaha.
So we saw that word before, angi kritavanta. You recognize?
No, I don't recognize.
Angi kritavanta, we had that before. Angi kuru. Angi. Yeah, this is also coming up in 8th chapter.
Oh,
it's called
wow.
accept. It means to accept. So tad angikritavantah, they accepted. Go.
So Simha, Gayaha, Vyagra. So there was a lion whose name was Vyagra.
No.
Acha.
A lion, Singha, Gajaha, elephant, Vyagraha,
Tiger.
tiger,
Okay. Then Ityadayaha. Then more. So
etc. Just it's
lions, elephant, tigers, etc.
Yes.
Sarve api, all of these beasts. Sarve api, what means brigand?
Yes.
well, no, Mrigaha here means all the animals. We had Mrigaha just above, remember? Here, Tatra Anye Mrigaha. So this is, listen to this, Marga. Right, so Marga, so people, and Mrigayati is a word for hunt. Mrigayati. So, and Marga is when you're looking for someone, if you're going hunting, then you have to find the path of the where the animal has gone. So the path of the animal, that's called the Marga. Okay? So that's why we're taking a Marga. So the Marga is leading to the animal that we're hunting for. So in the same way, if we're in Bhakti, we're taking the path that leads us to Krishna. Right? Who's next? So that was Singhaha, Gajaha, Vyagraha, Ityadayaha, Sarve api mrigaha tad angikritavantah. Next.
Evam Chandaravaha Tasya Vanasya Raj Abhavatam. Raja Abhavatam.
Abhavat.
Certainly,
No, Eva means in this way.
in this way, Chandaravaha became the king of the forest.
Yes, very good. Okay, simple sentence here. Subject, Chandaravaha Abhavat became Tasya Vanasya Raja, the king of that forest. All right, next one, Dinabandhu, Pritijanam.
Pratidinam Sinhadyaha Mrigan Marajitva Mansam Aniya Chandaravasya Purataha Stapayanti. Pratidinam Sinhadyaha, the lions, every day the lions, Dyaha, they gave.
Well, the lions, etc. No, it's again Adayaha. It's like I had Ityadayaha just above, so then I have Singhadayaha, the lions and other animals.
Yeah. Every day the lions and other animals. Yeah.
No, Mrigan is, wait a minute, Mrigan is the object here.
Okay.
So we're giving the Singhadayaha, that's one group of animals. The Mrigan that is talking about here is the object. So
yeah. So they every day the lions Mrigan Parayitwa some
Mar, it's Mar.
death.
No, Mar means killing.
Yeah, Mariyatwa.
So that's a gerund, right? So
Yeah.
Mariyatwa, Mrigan. So Mrigan Mariyatwa, killing the animals.
Mangsam.
Mangsam,
Meat.
meat, yeah, meat.
Aniya.
Okay, what's Aniya? We've had that before. Ni dhatu. What's ni dhatu? Ani.
They brought Chandraha Purataha Sthapayanti. They Sthapayanti, like they
Placed
Purataha.
in front of.
They place in front of Chandraha. Well, every day the lions, having killed some animals, flesh. Mrigan, yeah, having brought some. No,
There you got it. Okay, so again, so here again is a question of the, look at here, you have two gerunds. So you have to take the gerunds and think comma after a gerund. So every day the lions, etc., killed animals, right? Having killed animals, having brought the meat. So there you have another section, right? Aniya is a gerund. And then Chandaravasya Purataha Stapayanti. They place it. So here it's the meat that they're placing, obviously, in front of Chandarava. Okay, let's go on here. Shamantika, next one. Are we going to go on? Let's do the whole story, okay? Should we finish? I mean, today we had 4 days off, so we can do overtime a little bit. There's only 4 of us here. And we have anybody else, if they're on the online, they can turn it on and off anytime they like.
Chandaravaha Anandena Tat Kadati. Chandaravaha ate that with joy.
With joy. Yes, go ahead. Now back to you, Evam.
Evam eva saha vinaya sam sukhina
Sukhena.
sukhena jivati sma.
Okay.
And he also
So, no, well, Evam again, we have Evam. We just had Evam, right? What does it mean, Evam? In this way.
this way he made happily
That's right. But Vinayasam, without, so Vina, you know Vina?
without any fear.
No,
Vinaya-
Ayasa.
Obstacles.
Anybody else? Ayasa, anybody?
Ayasha.
Effort.
Effort. Okay. He was living in ease
Yeah.
without any effort, just because of his blue color.
Dina, yes.
Just goes to show you what a big deal having a good costume is. Right? Anybody can dress like a sadhu, right? All right, let's go on here. So, okay, maybe I'll do it quickly. Well, let's go on. I'll do one. Ekada Chandaravaha Sabhayam Upavishtavanaasit. Okay, so one day Chandaravaha was sitting in the assembly. Sabhayam, Saptami Vibhakti, Ekavachanam, Strilinga, right? Okay. Anye praninaha api parshve asan. Anye praninaha, other creatures, other living beings, api also were parshve, next to him or were around him, were close to him. Parshve is usually close to. So tada, then, akasmat, suddenly. So that's a cool word. I put it into the manual there. Just goes akasmat. So akasmat means from what, right? And akasmat, you don't know from what. So akasmat, suddenly. Whoops. Akasmat jalam amavahwam nipatitam. Akasmat. So suddenly, we usually translate just suddenly. So tada akasmat dura pradeshataha shrigala samuhasya kolahalaha srutaha. Okay, so tada, suddenly, he's in the assembly with all the other animals, right? Tada akasmat dura pradeshataha, tas suffix, tas, pradesha taha, from another faraway place. Dura pradeshataha, shrigala samuhasya, so samuha means a group, right? So the what do you call it? A pack. So the pack of hyenas or whatever, the hyenas, I think hyenas better than jackal, but the pack of jackals, kolahalaha, shrutaha. So kolahala means the noise. You know, so they start, you know how they are, they all start shouting, Wah! And then the other one goes, ah! And the other one goes, wow, and they all start howling. Right? So he started to hear the howling. So shrutaha was heard. So then suddenly, tada akasmat dura pradeshataha shrigala samuhasya kolahalaha shrutaha. Sarvaihi pranibihi. So swabandhavanam dhvanehe sravanat chandaravasya mahan anandaha jataha. So swabandhavanam dhvanehe. So from the sound of his friends hearing. So from hearing this of the sound of his friends. So they're all Shashti, but this is Shashti and this is Shashti, right? So it's Panchami is here, Shravanat. So from hearing of the sound of his friends or relatives, right? His bandhavas. Bandhava usually means relatives, those people he's connected to, right? Chandaravasya Mahananandaha Jata. He became very happy. Great. Wow, my friends, my buddies, they're around him. So Jata came about, that's what it is like here. Was born, right? Ananda was born. He became joyful. So Tasya Shariram Pulakitam Abhavat. His whole body became, his hair was standing on end. Pulaka. Pulaka Sharir, yes. So Tasya Shariram Pulakitam Abhavat. So it's a past participle here, Pulakitam. Maybe don't make the noise there because it's coming on the recording. So Saha Uttaya. So Uttaya is gerund, getting up, standing up. Uttishtati, right? Uttishta. So Uttaya, getting up. Anandatirekena. So atireka means too much, excess. So from the excess of Ananda, Netre Nimilya, closing his eyes. Tara Swarena. So Tara Swarena, who knows Tara? Who does harmonium? Who plays harmonium? You're learning harmonium, so you have what? You have mantra. Right? Tara is the high notes, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Tara Swarena in the high notes. He said Tara Swarena Virautum Arabdhavan. So there you have this Arabdhavan. So Arabdhavan, he began. So Arabdha is the past participle. Arabdhavan, he began. Virautum, again, you have your infinitive. So Virautum, he began to howl. He began to howl like a hyena. Yes.
You said the howl you translate before as a kolahalaha.
Oh, the kolahalam just is general noise.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so kolahalam. So you can also make kolahalam. Basically, etad mama grihasya bahi kah kolahala jataha. All right. So tada singhadeha praninaha esha samanyaha shrigala eva natu brahmana preshitaha iti gyatavantaha. So tada singhadeha praninaha. So then all the other animals, with starting from the lion, eshaha, this samanyaha shrigalaha eva. Samanya is just a regular ordinary. Now this is an ordinary jackal, an ordinary hyena. Natu Brahmana Preshitaha. He was not sent by Brahma. He's not an avatar. He's not an avatar. So iti gyatavanta, they knew it. What happened then? Ataha ekena eva praharena te tam maritavanta. So this is the way all these stories end. Right? Because this is really practical stuff, right? In those days, you never know who's going to just come with a sword and chop your head off. Right? So, ataha, if you're a king, right? If you're a king, you always hear all the kings are always killing each other. The sons are killing the father so that they can take over the throne. It's, in history, it's a fairly common thing. So this is the Vishnu Sharma is teaching to the sons of the king. The king has foolish sons. He says, "Who's going to teach my foolish sons?" This is the trouble. You have a king he's rich. The children, they grow up and they have all this money and they and they start drinking and womanizing and like this and buying Ferraris and things like this, running around causing trouble. So he said, my sons are foolish, they need to be taught. So he got Vishnu Sharma to teach them by telling them stories. So here was a story. So ataha ekena eva praharena te tang maritavantaha. Then ataha, therefore, ekena, with one, eva praharena, with one blow. They, tam, him, maritavanta, killed him. Okay, so that's our lesson for today. Don't go wearing blue clothes.
Vishnu Sharma is the great Panchatantra?
Yeah, he's usually the one that they say is the author. He's in the beginning story. He's the one that the story begins. The king is looking for someone, and he says to all the pundits in the kingdom, and they all fail. You know, this is the typical story that, you know, all the king is looking for someone who could, you know, who can teach my sons. So Vishnu Sharma comes and says, I can do it. So he makes him, tells them these stories, and they become very wise. Okay. All right, let's finish up. So let's just change new share. Let's go back to our Kim ge amraja keli karma kimiha Sreya satam sangati Kim smartam yamagari nama kimanu Dhyayam murare padam Kvaseyam raja eva kim sravanayo Anandi vrindavana Dhiraika kimupasyamatramahasi Sri Krishna Radha Vide. I think you're doing twice, right? Kim ge amraja keli karma kimiha Sreya satam sangati Kim smartam yamagari nama kimanu Dhyayam murare padam Kvaseyam raja eva kim sravanayo Anandi vrindavana Kriraika kim upasyamatramahasi Sri Krishna Radha Videyo Sarve bhavantu sukhinah Sarve santu niramaya Sarve bhadrani pashyantu Bhadrashti dukkha bhagavet Purnam madaha purnam idam Purnat purnam udachyate Purnasya purnamadaya Purnameva vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Jai Jai Sri Radhe Jai Jai Sri Radhe Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam. So for some reason I was leaving Vrindavan and someone stopped me at the airport. So I'm back here for a few more days, hoping I'll be able to arrange I'm still be going. So there's still going to be some mess ups in the traveling. All these last 4 days was pretty crazy already. You know, getting proper papers and everything, just getting ready to go. But now I'm more or less mentally and spiritually prepared to go. So I'm not going to, so it's going to happen again in a few days. Let's see what happens. Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe. So lucky is that, when I left, I tell you one little story. There's a place where Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami are talking in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So when I left India, I'd been in India for 11 years. And this was in 1985. And it was a bit like, anyway, Indira Gandhi was just assassinated, and then there was the air bombing. There was the Air India flight that was the Khalistani Sikhs. They blew up the Air India flight. And I was all alone there in Navadvip. So I ended up, I ended up deciding to go back to Canada. This was after 11 years. So I said, I was praying because in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu says to Sanatana Goswami, Dhanya se Prabhu jena chare nija jan. So fortunate is that Dhanya se Bhritya, so fortunate is that servant who has such a master who doesn't let him go. That if for some reason the servant should leave his side and go somewhere else, get into trouble, he goes and he grabs him by the hair and he pulls him back. You see? So he says that's a fortunate servant. You see? So yesterday I got a little bit of good fortune. As I was leaving, I went to the airport and I was dragged back by the hair, just so that we could do this class together. Radhe Shyam.